I'm Laura Bennett, 31, and my life used to feel like a house of cards, carefully stacked, always one gust away from collapsing. Growing up in a small town outside Raleigh, North Carolina, I was the dependable one in my family. The one who got good grades, helped with chores, never caused trouble. My younger cousin, Emily, was the opposite, wild, charming, always the center of attention. She had a knack for taking what wasn't hers, my favorite books, my friends' attention, even my first crush in high school. But nothing cut as deep as what happened at my engagement party last year. Emily stood up, glass in hand, and announced she was in love with my fiancé, Mark. Worse, he didn't deny it. As the room spun, I gripped a secret of my own, a truth that would unravel their story and set me free. Before I dive in, I'm curious where you're reading from. Drop your city in the comments below. And if you've ever dealt with family drama that hit like a freight train, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps keep this story out there, and trust me, you'll want to see how I came out the other side. I grew up in a modest house with creaky floors and a backyard that smelled like pine. My parents worked hard, dad at a hardware store, mom as a nurse, but they always seemed to have more energy for Emily than for me. She wasn't their daughter, she was my aunt's kid, but after my aunt passed when Emily was 6, my parents took her in. They treated her like she was fragile, a glass ornament that might shatter if you didn't handle it just right. Emily got new clothes while I wore hand-me-downs. Her art projects were framed. My academic awards got a "that's nice, Laura," and a pat on the head. It wasn't that they didn't love me, they just seemed to love her more. Her tantrums were met with hugs, while my quiet achievements were expected. Unremarkable Emily had a way of claiming what was mine. My favorite stuffed rabbit? Found in her bed, one ear torn off. The bracelet I bought with my first paycheck? She wore it to a party, claiming she borrowed it. In high school, when I confided in her about liking a boy named Josh, she asked him to prom before I could. I learned to keep my treasures close, my heart guarded. But no matter how careful I was, Emily always found a way to slip through the cracks. I thought I'd escaped her when I moved to Raleigh for college. NC State was my fresh start, far enough from home to breathe. I studied graphic design, found friends who saw me for me, not as Emily's shadow. In my senior year, I met Mark. He was a grad student, all easy smiles and quiet confidence, with dark eyes that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We met at a campus coffee shop when he spilled his latte on my sketchbook. He was so flustered, offering to buy me a new one, that I couldn't help but laugh. That night, we talked until the shop closed, swapping stories about our hometowns, our dreams. "You're different," he said, "real in a way most people aren't." For the first time, I felt like someone saw the real me. Mark and I built a life together. After graduation, we moved into a small apartment in Raleigh, me freelancing as a designer, him climbing the ladder at a tech startup. We were happy, late nights cooking pasta, binge-watching old movies, planning a future. When he proposed on a hiking trail at sunrise, the ring glinting in the early light, I thought I'd finally outrun my past. I was wrong. Wedding planning brought Emily back into my life. She'd moved to Charlotte, working as a bartender and chasing dreams of being an influencer. When I told her about the engagement, her response was a flat, "Wow, Mark's a catch. You sure you can keep him?" I brushed it off, but my mom insisted Emily be part of the wedding. "She's family, Laura. It'll mean so much to her." So, I made her a bridesmaid, ignoring the knot in my gut. The warning signs were there. At my bridal shower, Emily showed up in a dress that screamed bride more than my simple sundress. During the rehearsal dinner, her toast was a 5-minute monologue about her own love life, barely mentioning me or Mark. I told myself it was just Emily being Emily, needy, dramatic, harmless. Mark seemed to see through it, whispering, "She's just jealous of you," as we danced at the rehearsal. I believed him. Our wedding was beautiful, despite Emily's antics, arriving late for photos, flirting with Mark's brother during the reception. The first year of marriage was everything I'd hoped for. We bought a fixer-upper house, spent weekends painting walls, dreaming about kids someday. Mark was attentive, always leaving little notes on the fridge, "You make every day better." But about a year ago, things started to change. He'd stay late at work, his phone always on silent, screen down. He'd snap if I asked about his day, then apologize too quickly. I found a receipt for a necklace I'd never seen, tucked in his jacket pocket. Emily's Instagram showed her wearing a new silver chain. I told myself it was a coincidence, that my old insecurities were playing tricks. As my engagement party approached, the one we threw a year after the wedding to celebrate with friends who couldn't make the ceremony, I hoped it would be a reset. Mark promised to make it special, and I poured my heart into planning it. I wore the dress he loved, a deep green that matched my eyes, and spent extra time curling my hair. Tonight's our night, I told my reflection, willing it to be true. The party was at a cozy downtown bar, string lights casting a warm glow. My parents were there, beaming, though Mom still fussed over my hair. You could have done a bit more with it, Laura. Emily wasn't there yet, typical. Mark texted he was running late. Work, he said. I sipped my drink, chatting with friends, trying to ignore the unease creeping in. When Emily arrived, the room noticed. She wore a slinky black dress, her laugh cutting through the chatter. And then I saw Mark walk in behind her, his hand brushing her arm as they moved through the crowd. It was too familiar, too close. Sorry we're late, Emily said, hugging me with that fake warmth she'd perfected. Bumped into Mark outside. Total coincidence. Mark kissed my cheek, but his eyes didn't meet mine. Happy engagement. Party, babe, he mumbled, smelling of a cologne I didn't recognize. My stomach twisted, but I smiled. Glad you're here, I said, my voice steady. The night went on, friends toasting our love, but Mark was distant, checking his phone, barely touching his drink. Emily kept stealing glances at him, her smile sharp. When the bartender brought out the cake, a vanilla one I'd picked because it was Mark's favorite, my dad raised his glass. To Laura and Mark, a love built to last. Before we could cut the cake, Emily stood, her glass raised, her eyes locked on me. I have something to say, she announced, her voice carrying that performer's confidence. I wasn't going to do this here, but it feels right with family around. She paused, her hand resting on her chest, dramatic as ever. Mark and I are in love. We've been together for months, and we're ready to start our life together. The room went silent, like someone had sucked the air out. My mom's glass slipped, wine splashing across the table. My dad's face froze in shock. Mark just stared at the floor, not denying it. I felt like I was underwater, sounds muffled, heart pounding. Emily's eyes gleamed, waiting for me to crumble. Instead, I laughed, a small, bitter sound that surprised even me. Wow, Emily, I said, my voice calm despite the chaos inside. You really know how to steal a moment. I turned to Mark. Anything to add? He opened his mouth, then closed it, guilt written all over his face. Laura, I didn't mean for this to happen, he stammered. It just did. I nodded, taking a sip of my drink, letting the burn ground me. Well, congratulations, I guess. But there's something you both should know. I reached into my purse, pulling out a small envelope I'd been carrying for weeks, unsure if I'd ever need it. I've known about you two for a month. Found your texts, Mark. Not exactly subtle. I slid the envelope across the table, screenshots of their messages, late-night calls, even a hotel receipt. And Emily, that necklace you're wearing? Mark used our joint account to buy it. Thought you should know. The color drained from Emily's face. Mark looked like he'd been punched. My mom whispered, Laura, how could you keep this to yourself? I met her eyes. Because I needed to be sure before I blew up my life. And now I am. I stood, smoothing my dress. Enjoy the cake. I'm done here. I walked out, head high, ignoring the stares. The cool night air hit my face, and for the first time that night, I could breathe. I was Laura Bennett from Raleigh, and I wasn't going to let them break me down. I drove away from the bar that night, my hands steady on the wheel but my chest tight, like something inside was trying to claw its way out. Raleigh's streets blurred past, neon signs and late-night traffic smearing into streaks of color. I didn't go home, our home, the one Mark and I had spent months fixing up, where his betrayal now stained every corner. Instead, I checked into a cheap motel off the highway, the kind with flickering lights and a vending machine humming outside. The room smelled like stale cigarettes, but it was mine for the night, a place to think without their voices echoing in my head. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my green dress, and stared at the envelope I'd left on the bar table. Those screenshots, Mark's texts to Emily, all sweet words and promises, had been my armor. I'd found them a month ago when his phone buzzed while he was in the shower. I wasn't snooping, not really, I just picked it up to silence it. But the preview on the lock screen, "Can't wait to see you tonight, E," stopped me cold. My gut screamed, but I didn't want to believe it. So I checked. Texts, photos, plans to meet at hotels I'd never heard of. My world tilted, but I kept quiet, gathering proof, waiting for the right moment. That moment came at the party, and I dropped my bomb without flinching. But now, alone, the weight of it hit me. My phone lit up with notifications, 15 missed calls, texts from Mark, Emily, my parents. Mark's were desperate, "Laura, please, let's talk." Emily's was a single line, "I didn't mean to hurt you." My mom's voice message was tearful, begging me to come home and work this out as a family. I deleted them all. And called Sarah, my best friend since college. She answered on the first ring, her voice groggy but alert. "Laura? What's wrong?" "Mark and Emily," I said, my voice flat. "They're together." Announced it at the party. Silence, then a sharp inhale. I'm coming to you. Where are you? I gave her the motel address, and within an hour, she was there, pulling me into a hug that smelled like lavender and home. You're not alone, she whispered. I didn't cry, not yet. I just felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and left the shell Sarah stayed with me that night, sprawled on the second bed, cracking bad jokes about the motel's tacky wallpaper to make me smile. By morning, I had a plan. I called Jenna, a divorce lawyer Sarah recommended. I need to end my marriage, I told her over the phone, my voice steady. I have proof of infidelity. Jenna was all business, her tone sharp but kind. Meet me at my office at noon. Bring everything you've got. I agreed, feeling a flicker of control for the first time in hours. Before the meeting, I stopped by a coffee shop to print more copies of the screenshots. The barista, a kid with blue hair, gave me a curious look as the printer churned out pages of betrayal. I ignored it, sipping my latte, staring out the window at people living normal lives. I envied them, their biggest worry probably a late bus or a bad haircut. My life felt like a soap opera, but I wasn't about to play the victim. Jenna's office was sleek, all glass and steel, a far cry from the motel's grime. She was in her 40s, with a no-nonsense vibe that put me at ease. I handed her the envelope, and she skimmed the texts, her expression unreadable. This is solid, she said, leaning back. North Carolina's a no-fault divorce state, but infidelity can impact alimony and asset division. You've got leverage. She outlined my options: file immediately, freeze joint accounts, secure my finances. Mark's going to fight this, she warned. People like him don't like losing control. I nodded. I'm ready. That afternoon, I went to our house while Mark was at work. Sarah came with me, her presence a shield against the memories. That hit like punches, Mark and me laughing as we painted the living room, kissing in the kitchen. I packed my clothes, my art supplies, the quilt my grandma made me. I left Mark's ring on the counter with a note: Jenna will contact you. It felt final, like closing a book I'd never reopen. Sarah helped me move my stuff to her place, where she'd cleared out her guest room. You're staying here, she said, no room for argument. Until you're ready for whatever's next. I hugged her, grateful for a friend who didn't need me to explain my pain. That night, over pizza and wine, I told her everything: Emily's lifelong habit of taking, Mark's slow drift, the necklace receipt that confirmed my fears. She's always wanted what I had, I said. But this is a new low. Mark showed up at Sarah's the next day, banging on the door, his voice raw. Laura, please, just hear me out. Sarah stood by me, phone in hand, ready to call the cops. Should I? She asked. I shook my head. He'll leave. And he did, after shouting, this isn't over, Laura. You can't just walk away. His words lingered, but I refused to let them sink in. Emily called that night, her voice small. Laura, I'm sorry. I didn't think it would go this far. I laughed, cold and sharp. You announced it in front of everyone, Emily. What did you think would happen? She sniffled. I thought he loved me. Now he's pulling away. I felt a pang of pity, but it wasn't enough to soften me. You made your bed, Em. Lie in it. I hung up, my hands shaking but my resolve firmed up. By the end of the week, Jenna had filed the papers. Mark's text turned bitter, freezing. Our accounts? Real classy, Laura. I didn't respond, letting Jenna handle it. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects, sketching late into the night. My designs, bold, raw, full of edges, reflected the chaos inside me. My boss noticed, offering me a lead on a big client. You're killing it, she said. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. At Sarah's, I started rebuilding. I bought a new sketchbook, filled it with ideas for a life that was mine alone. I wasn't okay, not yet, but I was moving forward, one step at a time. Emily and Mark had taken my trust, my home, my future as I'd known it. But they hadn't taken me. And that, I realized, was enough to start over. 2 weeks after the engagement party disaster, I was still at Sarah's, my life packed into boxes in her guest room. Raleigh felt both familiar and foreign, like a favorite sweater that no longer fit. I'd been avoiding my parents' calls, their texts full of pleas to talk it out and keep the family together. But I wasn't ready to face their excuses for Emily, their inevitable push to forgive and forget. My focus was on survival, keeping my head above water while the ground kept shifting. Work became my anchor. I threw myself into a new project, designing a campaign for a local brewery. The bold colors and sharp lines of my sketches felt like an extension of the anger and hurt I couldn't voice. My boss, Rachel, pulled me aside one morning, her eyes soft but direct. Laura, your work's incredible lately, but you look like you're running on fumes. You okay? I shrugged, managing a half smile. Just navigating some personal stuff. She nodded, not pushing. Take care of yourself, alright? You're too good to burn out. Her words stuck with me, a reminder that I still had something to hold on to. That afternoon, I met Jenna at her office to go over the divorce papers. She'd frozen our joint accounts, and Mark was already pushing back, claiming I was trying to ruin him. Jenna smirked as she handed me his lawyer's latest email. He's grasping at straws. The prenup's airtight, and your evidence is damning. He's just stalling. I nodded, scanning the pages of financial records she'd compiled. What's next? I asked. We file for a fault-based divorce, she said. Infidelity gives us leverage for alimony. He'll drag it out, but we'll win. Her confidence steadied me, like a lifeline in a storm. And back at Sarah's, I was unpacking my art supplies when my phone buzzed. Emily again. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Laura, she said, her voice shaky, I need to see you. Please. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. Why, Em? So you can apologize again? She hesitated. It's not just that. I'm pregnant. My heart stopped, the room tilting. And? I managed, my voice cold. It's Mark's, she whispered. I thought you should know. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You're unbelievable, Emily. You think this fixes anything? She started crying, but I cut her off. Don't. You don't get to play the victim here. I hung up, my hands trembling. Pregnant. With Mark's kid. The betrayal twisted deeper, a knife I thought couldn't cut any more. I called Jenna immediately, relaying the news. Does this change anything? I asked. She was calm, professional. Not legally. It strengthens your case. Actually. Adultery plus a child? The judge won't look kindly on Mark. I exhaled, clinging to her words like a raft. That night, Sarah poured me a glass of wine and listened as I spilled everything. She's pregnant, I said, staring at the floor. And she thought telling me would make me, what, forgive her? Sarah shook her head, her jaw tight. She's desperate. She's losing Mark, and she thinks you're her way back in. I sipped the wine, its warmth doing little to ease the ache. She's always been desperate, I said. But this is a new kind of low. The next day, my parents showed up at Sarah's unannounced. I opened the door to find Mom clutching a tissue, Dad looking like he'd aged a decade. We need to talk, Laura, Mom said, her voice pleading. I let them in, bracing myself. They sat on Sarah's couch, Mom fidgeting, Dad staring at his hands. Emily told us about the baby, Mom started. She's scared, Laura. She needs family. I crossed my arms. And what about me? I needed family when my cousin slept with my husband. Mom flinched, but Dad spoke up, his voice gruff. We messed up, Laura. We let Emily's chaos overshadow you. We're sorry. It was the first time he'd acknowledged it, and it hit harder than I expected. I swallowed, my throat tight. I appreciate that, Dad. But I'm not ready to play happy family with Emily. They left soon after, Mom still teary, Dad quiet but nodding like he understood. I felt lighter, like a small piece of the weight I'd been carrying had lifted. But Emily's pregnancy gnawed at me. I couldn't shake the image of her and Mark, building a life that should have been mine. I called Jenna again, needing her clarity. If she's pregnant, does that mean Mark will always be in my life? I asked. Jenna's voice was firm. Only if you let him. We can structure the divorce to minimize contact. You're in control here. I started looking for my own place, needing space that wasn't Sarah's guest room or the house I'd shared with Mark. I found a loft downtown, small but bright, with big windows and exposed brick. It felt like a blank canvas, a place to start over. I signed the lease that week, my hands steady as I scrawled my name. The first night in the loft, I sat on the floor surrounded by unpacked boxes, sketching in my new notebook. The lines were softer now, less angry, like my heart was starting to unclench. Mark texted again, his tone shifting from desperate to angry. You're making this harder than it needs to be, Laura. Let's talk like adults. I didn't respond, forwarding the message to Jenna. Emily called once more, leaving a voicemail. I'm sorry, Laura. I'm keeping the baby, but I don't expect you to forgive me. I deleted it, but her words lingered, a mix of guilt and defiance. I didn't want to untangle. At work, I kept pushing forward, my designs earning praise from clients. Rachel gave me a raise, saying, "You're a rock star, Laura. Don't forget it." Her words felt like a small victory, proof I was more than the wreckage of my marriage. I was starting to see it, Laura Bennett, not just the betrayed wife, but a woman carving out her own space, her own life. Emily and Mark had taken a lot, but they hadn't taken my strength. And that, I was learning, was worth fighting for. It's been a month since the engagement party imploded, and I'm settling into my loft in downtown Raleigh. The place is small, but the high ceilings and big windows make it feel like I can breathe again. I've got a new bed, a thrift store couch, and a coffee table I painted bright teal. Mark would have hated it, which makes me love it more. Every choice here is mine, no compromises, no shadows. But the quiet moments, when I'm alone with my thoughts, still sting. Emily's pregnancy, Mark's betrayal, they're like bruises that hurt when you press them, and I'm trying not to press. Work is my refuge. The brewery campaign is wrapping up, and the client loves my designs, bold, gritty, with a nod to Raleigh's history. I'm sketching in my loft one evening, music blasting, when my phone buzzes. It's my mom, again. I've been dodging her calls, not ready for another plea to fix things with Emily. But tonight, I answer. Laura, she says, her voice softer than usual, can we come by? Just me and your dad. I hesitate, then give her the address. Maybe it's time to face them. They show up an hour later, looking out of place in my barebones loft. Mom's holding a Tupperware of her famous peach cobbler. Dad's got a bottle of wine. We thought you might want some comfort food, Mom says, her smile tentative. I take the cobbler, set it on the counter, and we sit on my mismatched furniture. Dad clears his throat. We've been talking, Laura, about how we handled things with you and Emily growing up. Mom nods, her eyes shiny. We didn't see how much we hurt you, always focusing on her. We thought you were fine, so steady. But we were wrong. Their words hit like a slow wave, washing away some of the resentment I've carried since I was a kid. I just wanted to be seen, I say, my voice cracking. Not as the reliable one, but as me. Dad reaches over, squeezes my hand. We see you now, Laura. And we're proud. Mom's crying now, and for once, I let myself cry too. It's not forgiveness, not entirely, but it's a start. They leave after an hour, promising to give me space but begging me to call if I need them. The next day, Jenna calls with an update. Mark's lawyer is pushing for mediation, hoping to renegotiate the prenup. He's claiming emotional distress, Jenna says, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Says you blindsided him with the divorce. I laugh, a real one. Blindsided? He's the one who blindsided me with my cousin. Jenna chuckles. Exactly. His case is weak, but he's trying to drag it out. Stay strong, we've got this. I hang up, feeling a spark of defiance. Mark doesn't get to play the victim here. That night, I'm at a work happy hour, my first real outing since the party. My coworker, Ethan, a quiet guy from the creative team, hands me a beer and smiles. You seem different lately, he says. Lighter, maybe? I shrug, sipping the beer. Trying to be. Ethan's been a steady presence at work, always. Leaving little post-it notes with doodles on my desk when I'm stressed. We talk about the brewery project, music, anything but my personal life. It feels good, normal, like I'm more than the drama that's defined me lately, but normal doesn't last. The next morning, Emily shows up at my loft, unannounced, her face pale and her hair messy. Laura, I need to talk, she says, her voice shaky. I step aside, letting her in, more out of curiosity than kindness. She sits on my couch, hands twisting in her lap. Mark's done with me, she says. He says he made a mistake, that he wants you back. I stare at her, the absurdity almost funny. And you're telling me this why? She looks down. Because I'm scared. I'm pregnant, alone, and I don't know what to do. I cross my arms, leaning against the counter. You thought sleeping with my husband would end in a fairy tale? Come on, Emily. Her eyes fill with tears, but I'm not moved, not like I used to be. I didn't plan this, she says. It just happened. I thought he loved me. I shake my head. You always wanted what I had, Em. But this time, you didn't just take, you broke it. She sobs, but I feel distant, like I'm watching a movie. I'm sorry, she whispers. I know I don't deserve you, but I'm so lost. For a moment, I see the little girl she used to be, the one who'd cling to me when she was scared. But that girl is gone, buried under years of selfishness. I can't fix this for you, I say. You need to figure it out on your own. She nods, wiping her face, and leaves without another word. I close the door, feeling a strange mix of anger and relief. I'm not her keeper anymore. Later, I meet Ethan for coffee, just the two of us. He's easy to talk to, his quiet humor a balm to my frayed nerves. You ever feel like you're starting over from scratch? I ask. He nods, stirring his coffee. Yeah. Lost my brother a few years back. Had to rebuild everything after that. His honesty catches me off guard, and I tell him about Mark, Emily, the whole mess. Not everything, but enough. He listens, no judgment, just steady eyes. You're stronger than you think, he says. I don't believe him, not yet, but I want to. Back at the loft, I open my sketchbook, drawing lines that feel like me, bold, messy, still here. Mark and Emily took a lot, but they didn't take my ability to create, to fight, to rebuild. I'm learning that's enough for now. It's been 6 weeks since the engagement party, and my loft is starting to feel like home. The walls are painted a soft gray, my sketches pinned up like a gallery of my survival. Raleigh's skyline sparkles through my windows at night, a reminder that life goes on, even when it feels like it shouldn't. I'm not healed, not even close, but I'm learning to live with the ache, like a bruise you stop noticing until you bump it. Emily's pregnancy and Mark's betrayal still hover, but I'm carving out space for myself, one day at a time. Work is my lifeline. The brewery campaign launched, and the clients thrilled, flooding my inbox with praise. Rachel, my boss, calls me into her office one morning. "Laura, you've been killing it," she says, sliding a folder across her desk. "We're pitching for a national brand next month. I want you leading the creative." I blink, caught off guard. "Me? Led?" She nods, smiling. "You've got the vision and the grit. Don't sell yourself short." I leave her office buzzing, the weight of her trust pushing back the shadows of doubt, but the past doesn't stay quiet. Mark's been relentless, texting daily, swinging between apologies and accusations. "I miss you, Laura. We can fix this," one message reads. The next, "You're being unfair, shutting me out like this." I forward them to Jenna, who's building a case for harassment if he doesn't back off. "He's panicking," she tells me over the phone. "The prenup's holding, and your evidence is bulletproof." "He's got nothing." I nod, staring at my teal coffee table. "What about Emily's pregnancy?" I ask. "Does it complicate things?" Jenna's voice is steady. "Not legally. It's his mess, not yours. Focus on you." Focusing on me means small steps. I've been hanging out with Ethan more, grabbing coffee or lunch between work projects. He's easy to be around, his quiet humor and steady presence a contrast to Mark's intensity. One afternoon, we're at a diner, splitting fries, when he asks about my life before Raleigh. I tell him about growing up outside the city, the pine-scented backyard, Emily's shadow always looming. "She took everything," I say, dipping a fry in ketchup. "My toys, my friends, now my husband." Ethan leans back, his eyes thoughtful. "Sounds like she's been chasing something she'll never find. You, though? You're building something real." His words hit deep, and I smile, a real one, for the first time in days. My parents call later that week, asking to meet again. I agree, but on my terms, at a coffee shop near my loft, neutral ground. They're already there when I arrive, Mom clutching her purse, Dad stirring his coffee too long. "We've been talking to Emily," Mom starts, her voice cautious. "She's struggling, Laura. The pregnancy's been hard, and Mark's not helping." I sip my latte, keeping my face neutral. "That's her problem, Mom. Not mine." Dad clears his throat. "We know we failed you, Laura. We let Emily's chaos take over. But we're trying to make it right." I look at them, seeing the guilt in their eyes, and something softens. "I need time," I say. "I'm not ready to fix things with her." They nod, and we part with a hug that feels fragile but honest. A few days later, Emily texts, "Can I see you?" I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance to explain. Against my better judgment, I agree to meet her at a park near my loft. She's waiting on a bench, her hands resting on a small bump that's starting to show. Her face is pale, her usual confidence gone. "I messed up, Laura," she says, not meeting my eyes. "I thought Mark was my way out, my chance at something better. But he's done with me, and I'm alone." I cross my arms, the breeze cool against my skin. "You're not alone, Emily. You've got a kid on the way. Figure out how to be there for them." She nods, tears spilling. "I'm trying. I miss you." I feel that old pull, the instinct to comfort her, but I hold firm. "I'm not there yet, Em. Maybe someday, but not now." I walk away, my heart heavy but my steps sure. Back at the loft, I pour my energy into the national brand pitch. My sketches are bold, full of life, and when I present them to the team, Ethan's grin is the first I notice. "You nailed it," he says later, over drinks with the crew. I laugh, feeling lighter, like I'm stepping out of Emily's shadow for good. Mark's texts slow down, but Jenna warns me he's still fighting the divorce, claiming I abandoned the marriage. "He's desperate," she says. "But he's got no ground to stand on." That night, I sit on my balcony, sketching the skyline. The city hums below, alive and indifferent to my pain. I think about Ethan's words, about building something real. I'm not there yet, but I'm closer. Emily and Mark tried to break me, but they only cracked the surface. Underneath, I'm finding a strength I didn't know I had, a strength that's mine, not defined by them or anyone else. I close my sketchbook, take a deep breath, and let the night air fill my lungs. I'm not whole, but I'm rebuilding. And that's enough for now. 2 months have passed since the engagement party, and my loft in Raleigh feels more like mine every day. I've added plants to the windowsills, their green leaves softening the brick walls. My sketches cover the fridge, bursts of color that remind me I'm still creating, still here. The pain of Mark and Emily's betrayal hasn't vanished, it's a dull ache now, like an old injury that flares up in the cold. But I'm learning to live with it, to build around it instead of letting it define me. Work is a bright spot. The national brand pitch went better than I hoped, and we landed the account. Rachel claps me on the back after the client signs, her grin wide. Laura, you're a star. This is your moment. The team celebrates at a bar downtown, and Ethan raises his glass to me, his eyes warm. To Laura, who makes impossible things happen. I blush, sipping my beer, feeling seen in a way I haven't in months. Later, as we walk to our cars, he lingers. You're doing all right, aren't you? He asks. I nod, managing a smile. Getting there. He doesn't push, just nods back, and I drive home feeling a flicker of something new, hope. Maybe. Jenna calls the next morning with divorce updates. Mark's lawyer is still fighting, now claiming I provoked his infidelity by being emotionally distant. I scoff, pacing my loft. Emotionally distant? He was sleeping with my cousin. Jenna's voice is calm, cutting through my anger. It's a weak argument, Laura. The texts, the receipts, the pregnancy, they bury him. He's just delaying the inevitable. She's pushing for a court date next month, and I agree, ready to close this chapter. What about Emily? I ask. Any legal fallout from her? Jenna pauses. Not yet, but if she tries to drag you into her mess, we'll shut it down. I hang up, relieved but worried. My parents have been reaching out more, their guilt driving them to check in weekly. I meet them for lunch at a diner near their house, the same one we used to go to as kids. Mom slides a photo across the table, a blurry ultrasound from Emily. She wanted you to have this, Mom says, her voice soft. I stare at the grainy image, a tiny shape that's half Emily, half Mark. My chest tightens, but I push the photo back. I'm not ready for this, Mom. Dad nods, his hand on mine. We're not asking you to be. Just know we're here for you, too. Their support feels fragile, but it's real, and I hold on to that as I leave. Emily texts later, a long message. Laura, I'm keeping the baby. I know you hate me, but I want to be a good mom. I'm sorry for everything. I read it twice, my fingers hovering over the reply button. Part of me wants to lash out, to tell her how her apologies mean nothing. But I don't. I delete the text, letting silence be my answer. She doesn't get to pull me back into her chaos, not anymore. At work, Ethan and I are paired on a new project, designing a mural for a community center. We spend late nights sketching, tossing ideas back and forth, our laughter filling the studio. One evening, he catches me staring at a blank page, my mind on Emily's text. You okay? He asks, his voice gentle. I sigh, setting down my pencil. Just family stuff. My cousin's pregnant, and it's complicated. He listens as I tell him the bare bones, Emily's betrayal, the baby, the divorce. Not the whole story, but enough. That's heavy, he says, his eyes steady. But you're still standing. That's no small thing. His words settle over me, warm and grounding, and I smile, grateful for his quiet strength. Mark shows up at my loft the next weekend, unannounced, his face haggard. I open the door, my heart racing, but I stand firm. What do you want, Mark? He runs a hand through his hair, a gesture I used to find charming. I messed up, Laura. Emily was a mistake. I want us back. I laugh, cold and sharp. You think you can just waltz in after everything? You're having a kid with her, Mark. He flinches, his eyes pleading. I don't love her. I love you. I shake my head, stepping back. You don't get to say that anymore. Go home. I close the door, my hands shaking but my resolve solid. He knocks for a while, then leaves, and I sink onto my couch, breathing hard. I'm not his anymore. That night, I sketch the mural design, vibrant, full of life, with figures reaching for each other but standing on their own. It feels like me, like the woman I'm becoming. I text Ethan a photo of it, and he replies instantly. It's perfect. You're perfect. I smile, my heart lighter than it's been in weeks. The next day, I meet Sarah for coffee, catching her up on Mark's visit, Emily's text, the divorce. She listens, her eyes fierce. You're doing the right thing, Laura. You're choosing yourself. Her words echo Ethan's, and I realize they're right. I'm not just surviving, I'm rebuilding, piece by piece. Mark and Emily took my trust, my marriage, but they didn't take my heart, my art, my future. I'm holding on to those, and they're enough to keep going. As I walk back to my loft, Raleigh streets alive around me, I feel a shift. The pain's still there, but it's not all I am. I'm Laura Bennett, and I'm writing my own story now, one where I'm the hero, not the victim. 3 months after the engagement party, my loft in Raleigh is a sanctuary. The walls are alive with my sketches, the plants thriving in the sunlight, streaming through the windows. I've added a rug, deep blue and soft underfoot, and a shelf of books I've collected, stories of resilience, art, starting over. The betrayal still lingers, a shadow that shrinks each day I choose myself. Mark and Emily are still out there, tangled in their mess, but I'm learning to let go, to build a life that's mine alone. Work is a whirlwind. The mural project with Ethan is taking shape, our late-night sessions filled with coffee and laughter. We've painted a rough draft on the community center wall, vibrant figures reaching across a bright sky, each standing strong. It's like us, Ethan says one night, wiping paint from his cheek. Connected, but independent. I grin, brushing my own paint-streaked hands on my jeans. You're getting deep on me, huh? He laughs, and the ease between us feels like a gift, something untainted by my past. Jenna calls with divorce updates. Mark's lawyer has backed off, the prenup and evidence too strong to fight. We're set for a hearing next week, she says. He's agreed to most terms, alimony, asset division. He's just dragging his feet on signing. I lean against my counter, staring at the teal table I love. Why's he stalling? I ask. Jenna's voice is dry. Guilt, probably. Or he's hoping you'll cave and talk to him. I snort. Not happening. She laughs. That's my girl. Stay tough. I hang up, feeling a surge of power. Mark doesn't control this story anymore. My parents have been trying harder, calling regularly, sending small gifts, a cookbook, a scarf, things that show they're listening to who I am. I meet them for brunch at a cafe near my loft, the air thick with the smell of bacon and coffee. Mom's eyes are tired, Dad's quieter than usual. Emily's struggling, Mom says, stirring her tea. The pregnancy's been rough, and Mark's barely around. I nod, sipping my coffee, keeping my face neutral. She made her choices, I say. Dad sighs. We know, Laura. We worry about you, too. I soften, just a bit. I'm okay, Dad. I'm figuring it out. They don't push, and when we hug goodbye, it feels warmer, like we're rebuilding something broken but worth saving. Emily sends another text, a photo of her ultrasound with a note. Thought you'd want to see your niece or nephew. I stare at the blurry image, my throat tight. Part of me wants to feel something, love, maybe, for this kid who's innocent in all this. But the hurt is too raw. I don't reply, tucking my phone away. Sarah notices my mood when we meet for drinks that night. She's trying to pull you back in, she says, her eyes sharp. Don't let her. I nod, swirling my wine. I won't. But it's hard, you know? She's still family. Sarah squeezes my hand. Family doesn't get a free pass to hurt you. The next day, Mark shows up at my office, catching me as I'm leaving. He's in a suit, but it's rumpled, his eyes bloodshot. Laura, please, he says, blocking my path. I need to talk. I cross my arms, my heart pounding but my voice steady. There's nothing to say, Mark. Sign the papers. He steps closer, desperation in his voice. I ended things with Emily. I want you back. I laugh, sharp and cold. You're having a kid with her. You don't get to walk away from that. He grabs my arm, and I yank it back. Don't touch me. Go home, Mark. He stares, then turns away, shoulders slumped. I walk to my car, adrenaline buzzing, proud of the strength I didn't know I had. Ethan's waiting at the community center when I arrive for our next mural session. He senses something's off. His eyes searching mine. Rough day, he asks, handing me a paintbrush. I nod, dipping it in red paint. Mark showed up. Tried to play the hero. Ethan's jaw tightens, but he keeps it light. Want me to paint him out of the mural? I laugh, the tension easing. Tempting. We work side by side, music playing softly, and I tell him about Mark's visit, Emily's text. He listens, steady as always. You're stronger than both of them, he says. They're stuck in their drama. You're moving forward. His words settle in, grounding me. That night, I sit on my balcony, sketching the mural's final details. The city hums below, alive and indifferent. I think about Ethan, his quiet support, the way he sees me, not as a victim, but as Laura, whole and capable. I think about my parents, trying to make amends, and Emily, lost in her choices. I'm not ready to forgive her, but I'm starting to see her as separate from me, not a shadow I have to fight. The hearing's coming, and with it, the end of my marriage. Mark and Emily took a lot, my trust, my plans, my sense of home. But they didn't take my heart, my art, my will to keep going. I close my sketchbook, the night air cool against my skin. I'm not healed, but I'm building something new, something stronger. And for the first time, I believe it's going to be enough. It's been a year since the engagement party that turned my world upside down, and I'm standing in my Raleigh loft, staring at my reflection in a new mirror I hung last week. The woman looking back is different, stronger, maybe, with lines around her eyes that tell a story of survival. The divorce is final, the mural's done, and my life feels like mine again, not a battlefield defined by Mark and Emily's betrayal. I'm Laura Bennett, 35 now, and I've learned that losing what you thought you needed can make room for what you truly want. I'm from Raleigh, born and raised, and if you're reading this, drop your city in the comments. Hit like and subscribe if you've ever had to rebuild from scratch. It helps keep this story out there, and trust me, it's worth sharing. The divorce wrapped up cleaner than I expected. Mark signed the papers after the hearing, his fight fizzling out under the weight of Jenna's evidence. I kept my savings, my art, and half the house's value when it sold. He kept his tech stock and his regrets. Jenna called it a win, and I felt it, a quiet victory, like reclaiming a piece of myself. Mark moved to Charlotte, chasing a new job. And, according to Sarah, a new girlfriend. I don't care enough to confirm it. He's a ghost now, someone I used to know. Emily had her baby, a girl named Lily, 3 months ago. She sent me a photo, the baby's tiny hand curled around her finger. DNA confirmed Mark's the father, no surprise there. Emily's living with our parents now, trying to figure out motherhood. She wrote me a letter a while back, not asking for forgiveness but explaining herself. I was jealous of you, Laura, she wrote. You always seemed so together, like you didn't need anyone. I wanted that, so I took what was yours. I'm working on being better, for Lily. I read it over coffee, my heart softening just enough to hurt. I visited her last month, holding Lily, her eyes big and innocent. She's perfect, I said, meaning it. Will you be her godmother? Emily asked, her voice small. I nodded, surprising myself. Some bridges rebuild slowly, one careful step at a time. My parents have changed, too. They've stopped excusing Emily's chaos, started listening to me. At a dinner last week, Dad admitted, we leaned on you too much, Laura, thinking you were fine. We should have been there. Mom nodded, tears in her eyes. We're learning, honey. It's not perfect, but it's progress. We're finding a new rhythm, one where I'm not just the steady one but their daughter, seen and valued. Work's been a lifeline. The national brand campaign was a hit, earning me a promotion to creative director. I lead a small team now, including Ethan, whose quiet support has become a constant. Our mural at the community center, bright, bold figures under a hopeful sky, won a local art award. At the unveiling, Ethan stood beside me, his arm brushing mine. We did good, he said. His smile warm. I nodded, feeling the weight of we in a way I hadn't with Mark. Ethan and I are taking things slow, just dinners and long talks, no labels yet. He's been burned before, too, and we're both cautious, but his steadiness feels like home. Tonight's my 35th birthday, and I'm hosting a small dinner at a cozy restaurant downtown. Sarah's there, along with Rachel, Ethan, and a few others from work. No family this time, just people who choose me, no strings attached. I wear a red dress, bold and unapologetic, my hair loose. Ethan arrives with a gift, a small wrapped box. Open it later, he says, his eyes soft. Inside, I find a sketchbook, its first page inscribed, to Laura, who paints her own path. I tear up, hugging him, and he laughs, pulling me close. You're stuck with me now, he teases. As we sit around the table, laughter filling the air, I raise my glass. To new beginnings, I say, my voice steady. They cheer, glasses clinking, and I feel it, joy, real and unshaded by betrayal. The past year taught me hard truths, that love doesn't excuse lies, that family isn't owed loyalty if it costs your soul, that my worth isn't tied to who stays or leaves. Mark and Emily shattered my illusions, but from the pieces, I've built something stronger, a life that's mine, defined by my choices, my art, my heart. After dinner, Ethan walks me home, the Raleigh night cool and alive. Happy birthday, Laura, he says, his hand brushing mine. I smile, squeezing his fingers. Thanks for being here. He nods, and we walk in comfortable silence, the city lights guiding us. Back in my loft, I open my sketchbook, drawing a single figure, me, standing tall, no shadows behind her. The pain's still there, a quiet scar, but it's not all I am. I'm Laura Bennett, and I've rebuilt from betrayal, not because I had to, but because I chose to. This is my story. And it's not over. If you've been through betrayal, know you're not alone. Share where you're from in the comments, and if this resonates, like and subscribe. It helps keep these stories alive, showing we can all rebuild, no matter how deep the hurt.